Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the maintenance-free neighborhood version of our CEVA committee member orientation. This is for our standing committees and neighborhood committees, just to give you a background on all the information that you kind of need to know as you navigate yourself through the CEVA organization and through your role. We'll be talking about many different topics this afternoon. And we do have the ability, our speakers for today are myself, Annie Ross. I'm Lakewood Ranch Town Hall, the Interdistrict Authority. We have Christy Valentine, she's the CEVA Property Management Coordinator, and Robin Azar is our Fiscal Manager here at Town Hall. We do have one of the board members present, Mr. Mike Miller, so he is here available for questions as well. We do have the chat function for you to ask your questions. We also have raising your hand. I see Ms. Cooper has her hand raised. Oh, no, just went down. If you have a question, you can put it on the chat, or we have the question and answer session as well. For right now, though, I think we'll go through our entire presentation and then try to answer the questions afterwards. We'll start first with just some comparisons that are sometimes confusing to residents, so we just want to touch base on those and give you a little background both on the district and the traditional versus maintenance-free neighborhoods, or MFNs, which we'll say many times this presentation. Also, then we'll go over the CEVA organization, go through all the committee roles and responsibilities, and then on to some who do I contact, and at the end we'll end with an open forum and information sharing session. We're hoping they'll have some synergy with everybody and share lessons learned or just questions in general. Okay. One of the biggest things that residents sometimes have trouble with is the difference between the Community Development District, which is the district, and the HOA, the Homeowners Association. So we've put this slide together just to touch on some of the main differences between the two organizations and what they have jurisdiction over. The district itself, which residents within the CEVA organization, the Country Club Edgewater Village Association, as yourself, belong to either the CDD2 or CDD5. Depending if you're in the north, it's CDD5. If you're in the south, it's CDD2. And the district itself, whether it's District 2 or District 5, they have control over the public properties or the common areas. It's a special purpose government that's they're managed out of Town Hall, and they maintain the common areas such as the roadways, signage, landscaping, the entryways, all your monument signs, and the utilities. It's a little different for each on the water and wastewater side for each of the districts, but in general, it's the water, sewer, irrigation, and then the stormwater ponds. So it's mostly the infrastructure that the districts are in charge of. And their assessments are actually done through the property tax bill. This is all we'll discuss with the CDDs and districts themselves. If some of your questions tend towards that, we'll just answer those at the end of the program. The Homeowners Association, by purchasing your home in Lakewood Ranch, you became a member of the CEVA organization, and it governs all the private property, so pretty much inside the resident lots. They're responsible for keeping up the property values, the architectural and landscape modification approvals, the deed restriction enforcement, and in the case of the MFNs, the maintenance-free neighborhoods, some of the neighborhoods have neighborhood pools, so there is common area where the HOA is under their jurisdiction. The assessments for the HOAs are billed via direct mail from the CEVA banking institution, and that's done at the beginning of the year through payment booklets on a quarterly basis for the MFNs, but then the annual assessment for the CEVA organization is also sent via regular mail. A secondary thing we just wanted to do a comparison on is the traditional versus maintenance-free neighborhoods. If any of our committee members are brand new to the area, The maintenance-free neighborhoods were put together by the developer so that the neighborhood itself could collectively contract for property maintenance services through their supplemental declarations and neighborhood votes. They do an annual assessment for the HOA membership. They also participate in that, but above and beyond that, you also have quarterly assessments for those shared services that your neighborhood participates in. They maintain the neighborhood pool, as I mentioned earlier, and you can, by neighborhood vote, can expand the shared services that you do, as well as the ones that are already in your supplemental declarations. And then you may have some very neighborhood-specific rules and regulations, and Christy will go into a little more of that as we move through the program. For the traditional neighborhoods, they are only receive their annual assessment for the CEVA organization, and they individually contract for their own property maintenance. So some of those things might be their yard lamps or their landscaping, whereas in a maintenance-free neighborhood, that might be done. Both of those items might be taken care of by one vendor that the neighborhood community contracts with. These are the maintenance-free neighborhoods within CEVA. We do, in our Summerford Riverwalk Village Association, there is one also a maintenance-free neighborhood there. So this just gives you an idea of who your neighbors are also maintenance-free neighborhoods. Okay, from the Town Hall and the Interdistrict Authority perspective, we just wanted to touch on a few items that we do with administration management. We have two of our departments are very involved in the CEVA organization management, and that's the Community Association Services. That's your modification requests we facilitate, the deed restrictions that we manage, all the administrative type functions, our customer service, and then all the meeting facilitations. The financial services is done through the finance department, and that accounts for the accounting, the budget development, your audits, the cash management, any of those estoppels or billings that come through Town Hall. And then, of course, Town Hall also supplies the meeting space. This is all done through a contract between the Country Club Edgewater Village Association Board and the Interdistrict Authority Board. Going into more of the backbone of the CEVA organization, you have your main governing documents. That's the Declaration of Covenants, your Articles of Incorporation, your bylaws, and then your rules and regulations. That's just a summary of the kind of abbreviated of the governing documents to guide and advise the homeowners. So each one of these sets up either with the Declaration of Covenants, you're just establishing the standards and the base restrictions and obligations. The Articles of Incorporation just define the purpose and power for the board, for the organization and association. And then the bylaws are the governing rules and voting rights that are set up. So all of those three documents then are summarized in the homeowner's manual, and that's what most of the homeowners rely upon. However, when there's a question about a rule or regulation or how to vote, you always go back to the governing documents. And with this, I'm going to pass it off to Christy Valentine, your Property Management Coordinator. She's going to talk more about the roles and responsibilities and a number of topics for you.
Thank you, Annie. I'm Christy Valentine, and I am your Property Management Coordinator. And by looking at the list of people who are participating, I know many of you, and some are new to committees and new to the area, and I look forward to meeting you as we go along in this. So what you have in front of you is the CEVA organizational structure, and this was developed because CEVA is so large with so many neighborhoods and homes on it that this would set up a link between the board of directors and the residents. And the way that this was done was by somewhat breaking off into smaller groups as your neighborhood committee and your standing committees. And they link each other to all to each other by having the different committees. They're kind of vehicles to make sure that everyone is in communication. Next, Annie, please. So what you have here is you have your board of directors, which includes the president, who's your chief executive officer, who's Mike Miller, your vice president, who exercises the powers and duties if needed, if the president isn't available, who's Ron Steffen, the treasurer, who is Chris Gerard, and she monitors the association's financial activities and what's going on with working with the finance department on budget development. And the secretary, who reviews all the minutes and executes association documents when it's required, and that's Art Tabor. And then there is a director, Don Diven. So the board of directors is a very busy group, and they have a lot of responsibilities, mostly as they maintain the integrity of the governing documents. They manage all the affairs, and they act in the best interest of the association and your community. They do have a fiduciary responsibilities, and they set up the standards, and they manage all of the expenses as well. They conduct open and fair meetings, and they create an environment that has open communication for the residents that is very important. And they also coordinate and communicate with the IDA on issues that come up. The next slide, please.
Oh, sorry, I was trying again.
It's fine. So I'm going to try and give you a breakdown of what the neighborhood committee is, and how the neighborhood committee works, and what neighborhood committee representatives are. And you should be familiar with this from when you get your form to fill out after elections and you decide who's going to do what. You have a chairperson, you have a voting member, an alternate voting member, and then you go into the standing committees, which are the finance committee, the landscape committee, the safety committee, the fining committee, and the restrictions revision committee. Some neighborhoods have other representatives that to help keep the community together, which are Annie. Okay, we went to
Sorry.
so no, that's okay. There's a social. Some have social and communication representatives who help, or a secretary. And in maintenance-free neighborhoods, they may have a representative who handles the irrigation, if they have irrigation in their contracts, or takes care of the pool. So each neighborhood has 7 members, and each fall the election process starts, and the nominations are sent out to all individual residents in each neighborhood. That's each household. Those nominations are put on the ballot and again sent to each resident. Of the 7 nominees with the highest amount of votes, those are tallied and they become your neighborhood representatives. They meet and they divvy up the responsibilities that we just went over on the right-hand side of the screen. So I think it's important at this time to mention that the neighborhood committee is not a board. There is only one board of directors, and that is the Country Club Edgewater Village Board of Directors. They are a neighborhood committee, and it's important to educate your neighborhoods on this. It can lead to misrepresentation or misunderstandings with residents when it comes to policies, procedures, and restrictions. And all members of the neighborhood committee, they have to be a neighbor in good standing, and they have to adhere to the code of conduct, which we'll have available that you can get. It's on the portal, and we'll have it available that you can get it through this presentation too. Okay, so I'm going to go into then the neighborhood committee chairperson. And why it's
sorry,
important.
Christy, that is showing, isn't it?
Yes.
The slide, the neighborhood. Okay, sorry.
So the neighborhood committee chairperson, and why it's important to have one and to have a committee. And mainly they're a link between the resident and the board, and the board and the residents. They're like kind of a conduit to that. The neighborhood chair is responsible for ensuring there's at least one neighborhood meeting a year and that it's noticed correctly to all residents in the neighborhood, not just the neighborhood committee. The neighborhoods can have as many meetings as they like during the year or as they feel necessary. Sometimes maintenance-free neighborhoods do have more neighborhood committees meetings than just one. Some have meetings once a month. That's a decision that your committee will make when things fall into line and you see the direction of how you're working together. All neighborhood meetings must be posted and noticed to all residents at least 48 hours in advance. We recommend a minimum of 2 weeks to make sure that everyone has fair notice, and where it's being posted, that they can see it. The meetings are to be held wherever you feel most comfortable. Some have them at their pools. Some have them in their homes, depending on how many people they think will attend. Town hall is always open and can be scheduled by the front desk if you want to have the meetings at town hall. And we do have a Zoom account that we can open for neighborhood committee meetings. You can contact me if this is an avenue that you'd like to go down, and I can walk you through how to do that. And we've been doing it and it's working well. The neighborhood meetings are a great way to catch up with everyone. What's going on in your neighborhood, what's going on in the community, listening to opinions and suggestions, and a great way for standing committee representatives to report what has happened at the meetings back to the residents, and then the residents' viewpoints, so they can send those back to the committees. Usually the neighborhood chairperson does the minutes. Some neighborhoods do have secretaries and they will send them in, but you need to send the minutes into town hall. To me is where they'll be sent going forward, and we will make sure that they're posted on the portal. Next. I want to give communication, first of all, and I think everybody knows is probably one of the most important things between the neighborhood committee and the residents. We've looked at a lot of ways that some neighborhoods connect with each other, and I want to give you some examples of those that maybe you can take back to your neighborhood committee, and then again at the end we'll discuss. You might want to share what you do that could be beneficial for other neighborhoods. We do have and are going to have updated resident contact list, which you can contact me about, and I will get that to you so that you have the current contact information for the residents in your neighborhood. Please note, many neighborhoods have better contact information than we do. A lot of people don't want to be contacted by town hall, but they do want to hear from their neighbors. Also, many residents, the last place they remember to update a new email address or phone number is with town hall. So we don't always have current information, but we do the best we can to keep that up to date. Another good way of communicating with your neighborhood is to be sure that you send your minutes from your neighborhood meetings to all of the residents, not only to let them know what's going on, but so that they can remember that there are neighborhood meetings and that they should be attending. And it's okay to have more than one a year. work with your neighborhood. Sometimes something may come up in the neighborhood that you feel that you need to have a, a meeting every maybe quarterly or 6 months, and that's fine. And we can help you at town hall if you need to use the facilities to have the meeting there. Neighborhood newsletters are another great vehicle to communicate with your neighbors. I know there are several neighborhoods that do put out newsletters that are outstanding and relay a lot of information. Welcome letters to new residents is another way to get things out to people, and email blasts within your neighborhood that you can send to all of your residents when something comes up that is new and exciting, or that you feel is a concern. You can send out the email blasts to those residents so that they know what's going on. And some neighborhoods have a communications representative to make sure that everyone gets the information in a timely manner. And let's not forget the ever popular social gathering, which many neighbors have. And again, they can catch up, they can meet new neighbors. This is a great vehicle to try and get new recruits with new neighbors and to get them excited for where they live and what's going on. And I'm not sure that every neighborhood knows that on the lakewoodranchgov.org website that there is a neighborhood page. We are working on a template, which we will be getting to you now that we know the committees. It will be items that you can put on that page, on the My LWR page for your neighborhood specifically. And we'll be giving you options of things you want to put in there, such as your neighborhood committee. If you want contact information for those representatives or not. It'll also, when the meeting dates are for your annual neighborhood meeting or other meeting dates that you might have. And in neighborhoods that are maintenance free, where you can list what the contract services you have are, so that this neighborhood, this website is a public website. So when people go to this page, a lot of times they're looking to purchase homes in the area, and this way they can look and they can see what exactly your neighborhood has to offer. So you'll be getting that template to use, and we'll get those all updated for you as soon as possible. So it not only is for the residents who live in Country Club, it's for prospective buyers as well. Okay. I believe we're on page 12, neighborhood chairperson.
Oh,
there,
I think I've got them in a different order. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Or are we down? We're to the voting members, neighborhood voting members and alternates. There we go. Okay. Each committee has a neighborhood voting member and a neighborhood alternate voting member. And you have your neighborhood chair as well. These are 3 separate positions and responsibilities. The neighborhood chairperson is one responsibility. The neighborhood voting member is one responsibility, and the alternate is a separate voting position as well. Most neighborhood chairs are voting members, but they don't have to be. You can have 3 different people doing the 3 different responsibilities. The alternate voting member steps in if there is a vote that is taking place and the voting member can't be present. It's also important to know that if you are on the board of directors, that they can be the neighborhood chairperson, but they cannot be the voting member or the alternate voting member. It's important to have voting members and an alternate voting member so that your neighborhood's represented if something should come up that requires a vote. and not just have only a neighborhood chair. So when is a vote required? For any vote, only one member of a household can vote. So when you receive the voting packages for your neighborhoods in the fall, there is always a voting certificate included in that. And the voting member is one person who is on the deed to the property. And we keep records of those at Town Hall. When a neighborhood vote is conducted, it's conducted to change things that are changing the standards of a neighborhood, such as some neighborhoods allow fences and some don't, basketball hoops, the new yard lamp head replacements, or lease minimum terms. Those votes go to the neighborhood, and the vote goes out to the entire neighborhood. We conduct at CAS the vote, and we manage the vote from beginning to end. Usually we allow a vote, give the residents 30 days to vote. And with this vote, a simple 51% of the neighborhood must vote to deem a quorum, and not less than 60% of those who voted must have voted in favor for the vote to pass. There's a difference then with a membership vote. That's a neighborhood vote. With a membership vote, it's the same criteria for who can vote, and it's one member per household of someone who's on the deed. And those are to change anything in the governing documents, and it requires 66 2/3 of the residents for a change. And standing committees. So standing committees gather information, opinions, and concerns from their panels comprised of volunteers from each neighborhood. And they report those back to the board of directors at the monthly business meeting. And they also report all of the information they have back to the residents. So you have the modification committee and the fining committee are a little bit different. Here it says compliance, but it's violation fining. And I'll get into that as we go on. You have the landscape committee, the restrictions revision committee, the safety committee, and the finance committee. Each committee has a chairperson, and they report the information at the monthly board meetings. And then they report back to their committees and residents any of the feedback from the board at the monthly meetings. The standing committees do not make policy. They only make recommendations to the board of directors, and only the CEVA board of directors can make policy. So the first committee we'll talk about is the modification committee. And it's a little bit different. If you think back to the form that you filled out for your neighborhood committee and the responsibilities, the modification committee is not on there. And the reason is that it is a specially appointed committee by the board of directors. There are two modification committees. There's one for Country Club, and Paul Harding is the chairperson. And in Edgewater, Roz Shaw is the chairperson. They have separate meetings for each area. Each standing committee has a board liaison who sits in the meetings, and they listen to the meetings. They don't make the decisions for the committee, but they ensure that the guidelines that are within the rules and regulations and the covenants, all the governing documents are being followed. And they some report back to the board at times if they feel there are things that need to be discussed. But the modification committee, that person is appointed by the board, and there is a criteria of how many people can be on the modification committee and what makes a quorum. So to be a panel member on the modification, first there has to be an opening. That person has to attend at least 3 or 4 meetings as a guest, and they're not permitted to comment or to vote. The meetings are twice a month and each are 2 hours long. It's quite a commitment. And this gives the potential candidate and the modification committee a chance to get to know each other and see if this is going to be a good fit, since it is a big commitment. Then once it is decided that they want to be on the panel, the modification committee will recommend the approval from the board of directors at the next board meeting, and then they will be on the modification committee. So the modification committee meetings are on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month, and all modifications in the documents have to be received no later than noon on the Thursday prior to the meeting. And that is because sometimes the modification committee panel has to go look at properties to see if what is going on. They may have questions, they may have other things that they want to know about, and this gives them plenty of time, since they are volunteers and do have lives, that they can work this into their personal schedules as well. The modification does have joint meetings with other committees from time to time, and they there can be a lot of times when ad hoc committees come out of issues that the modification committee would like to discuss. So again, it is a big commitment. The committee reviews the modification requests, and they approve or deny the request based on the rules and restrictions in the governing documents. The fining committee is comprised of a representative of each neighborhood. The sole purpose of the fining committee is to review violations that have not been brought into compliance, and they listen to the historical details of the violations, and they confirm or deny that the fine amount that's been presented and previously approved by the board of directors, if a violation did occur, and if it is within the CEVA governance. There is a quorum of 3 panel members required and an alternate present, and that is determined on the day of the hearing. We generally have a great turnout for the fining committee. You cannot vote on a violation. You must abstain if the violation occurred within your neighborhood. So panel members are chosen by who would be available to be on the panel without having a violation in their neighborhood. And the committee meets once a month. We try to keep the date as consistent as we possibly can. Don't hold me to this, but on the 3rd Thursday of the month, but it can vary due to the legal stipulations and the governance in the Florida statutes. Next, the landscape committee. Again, there is 1 member from each neighborhood. These meetings are highly attended, and they are great informational forums for not only just your personal landscaping, but for what's going on in the community. And the committee works closely with CDD 2 and 5, and they discuss and make recommendations in regards to landscaping and landscape maintenance. They research many, many topics to ensure that the community is updated on the latest issues of changing trends to maintain the integrity of the community and the look that you're used to having, and that makes it one of the greatest communities that we have. They also work closely with the modification committee and the restrictions revision committee for their opinions and their suggestions. Any current trends they may see that are changing, and they are the vehicle to relay that information. The committee generally meets every other month with a few months off during the summer. The Restrictions Revision Committee, again, has one member per neighborhood. Every year, they take a look at the rules and restrictions to make sure that they are still relevant and within the CEVA governance. And as you're aware, they took over a year completely updating the CEVA homeowners manual, and they did a fantastic job. They reviewed every word that was in the manual and tied it to the governing documents. They do this every year. They also do this when they're at the requests of residents who feel there should be changes. They work very closely with all of the committees for their opinions. And once they've determined that a change may be relevant, they submit any and all of those changes to the board of directors for approval. They do not make policy. They only make recommendations to the board, and the board will make policy if they feel that it's necessary. They generally meet the first Thursday of the month, and they take a few months off as well during the summer, or if there's nothing to discuss. The next committee is the Safety Committee. Again, one member from each neighborhood. The committee meets to discuss safety issues within the community and the surrounding areas. They work closely with the sheriff's department as well, and they stay up to date with issues that they feel you should know about, the neighborhood should know about, and they pass that information on to the neighborhoods and the board. They make their updates to the board of directors at the monthly business meeting. And they also let the board know what's going on from the sheriff's department. Their meetings are highly attended. They're a great source of information to take back to your neighborhoods and to keep the residents informed. And as a note, each member of the community is responsible for their own safety, and Country Club Edgewater Village Association does not assume any liability on behalf of the members of the community. They are an information source. So I've thrown a lot of information at you. It can be and seem all-consuming because we just covered a lot of material, and you're probably wondering what you got yourself into. But remember, you're just going to be doing a portion of this, and that you'll be working as part of a team in your neighborhood. And the value of what you do as a volunteer and serving your community is what keeps this community one of the top master plan communities. People from all over the world look to move here. So now I'll turn the meeting over to Robin Azar from the Finance Department.
Hi, everyone. So this is Robin Azar. I am the fiscal manager at Town Hall, and I oversee the fiscal functions of the HOAs and maintenance-free neighborhoods, which includes facilitating the monthly Finance Committee meetings. The Finance Committee typically meets once per month, generally on the third Monday at 10 a.m. here at Town Hall. However, currently, under some COVID restrictions, we are conducting those meetings via communications media technology or Zoom. Our committee chair is Gail Cole, and our board liaison is Chris Gerard, who is the treasurer of the CEVA board. And the Finance Committee is made up of the finance representatives of the individual neighborhoods. And while members from traditional neighborhoods are more than welcome to attend these meetings, the topics and work involved really mainly pertain to the maintenance-free neighborhoods. There's various topics covered at the meetings. It could be reserve replacements, reviewing current policies, and making subsequent recommendations to the board, et cetera. We also expect the members of the Finance Committee to take an active role in the fiscal functions of their neighborhood. This includes reviewing the monthly payables. We process vendor payments once per month at the end of each month. The payments, before payments are released for payables are released for payment, backup with documentation is emailed to the neighborhood representatives for review and their approval, and then payment is released only after the neighborhood representative approval is given. Finance members also review the monthly financial packages for their neighborhood. These are distributed by the 15th of each month for the immediate prior period and include a statement of revenue and expenditures with a comparison to both the current month and year-to-date budgets, balance sheets, and also AR aging detail. I'm also just going to note that the AR aging detail that we provide is for informational purposes only. Finance representatives are not expected to monitor delinquent accounts in their neighborhood. These are monitored by staff, and any severely delinquent accounts are then forwarded to our attorney for collection. Another function that the finance representatives have, and it's not really just the finance representatives, kind of the neighborhood community as a whole, is the facilitating the contracted services. And so I'm just going to note that the CEVA board holds the contractual obligation and signatory authority for any maintenance agreements. However, the neighborhood committee is expected to kind of manage those contracts, and that includes soliciting and negotiating the agreements. They work with staff at Town Hall to make sure that there's the minimum contract requirements to protect CEVA. We review for the financial feasibility of the agreement. We assist the committees in any way, obtaining the agreements. And then once everything is obtained and approved by staff and the neighborhood agrees, then we prepare those documents to put in front of the board for approval and signature. The neighborhood also monitors and manages the vendor service level. So this could be established through the supplemental declarations of your governing documents. You could request additional services, and that would require a neighborhood vote. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that piece, as it's not really particular to one committee role in general. So the last thing I'm going to cover about the Finance Committee is the budget development process. And every year we start this process I'm sorry, I just lost my place, forgive me. So I'll point out that the HOA budgets are structured on a calendar year, whereas the IDA and district budgets are on a fiscal year. They operate from October through September every year. As a result of this, CEVA begins working alongside with the IDA early in the calendar year as the IDA develops its budget to determine what the management fees are going to be for the following calendar year. We then kick off the budget development process for the maintenance-free neighborhoods at the June Finance Committee meeting. We give committee members the month of July to complete their budgets for their neighborhoods, which is then reviewed by the Finance Department. The Finance Committee then reviews and approves the completed budgets at the August Finance Committee meeting and provides recommendations to the board for approval at the September board meeting. Those finalized budgets are then the basis for the assessment notices that are sent to homeowners every year shortly after Thanksgiving. So that's really the overview of the Finance Department. I'm gonna try to smoothly shift into the public and private websites. We do have two websites available for users in the community. Our public website, the lakewoodranchgov.org site, it has information pertaining to both the districts and the HOAs. This is where you're going to find high-level community information and links to things such as our community calendar, which includes town hall and our park events. You can get a link to our online reservation system and any general details about the community, such as who current board members and committees are, or a high-level description of services that are provided within a neighborhood. Our second website is our private homeowners portal, and only current residents of either CEVA or Greenbrook have access to the site, and a login with an account number and password is required. Here, homeowners can view account-specific details such as transaction or violation details. You can make payments here and complete various other functions through the use of web forms such as respond to a violation or submit a modifications request. Neighborhood and standing committee members also have additional permissions here that grant them access to committee-specific information, which could be policies or guiding documents, agendas or minutes for their meetings, financial statements for their neighborhoods, or links to current agreements for the shared services within their neighborhood. So it's a really powerful tool. And we are working towards adding things like electronic notifications to residents when a new violation is opened, or their account is about to be late, or there's a community news that we want everyone to know. So that's really the overview of our two websites. The next topic is, who do I contact for various things? And so I'm first with the all of the financial related material, financial statements, budgets, if you have questions about your contracts, if you have questions about the private homeowners portal. We also have additional finance staff that can help you if you have questions about any payments or homeowner account inquiries. You'd want to contact Brittany Schmel. If your inquiry is regarding vendor payments for services in your neighborhood, that you're going to contact Debbie Ball. Christy Valentine is going to be who to contact for anything deed restriction, violation, leases, modification, or board meeting related. If you have a question about anything in the common areas, that's going to be our operations office. And the link here in the presentation is a link to an email, but there's also phone number and also same link on our website. If you have a question about anything that's not listed above, call the front desk. That resident service at Lakewood Ranch Town Hall is our front desk staff, and you can also reach them by phone. And then if there's anything above that, call Christy or email her a question. So I believe that is our last slide before we open it up, our open discussion. And oh no, I'm sorry. We have the policy and guidance documents. My apologies. So after the meeting, we will make this presentation available on the portal, and I believe also be emailing it to committee members. In addition to the presentation, this is a list of guidance documents that we will make available in the same section of the portal. CEVA Code of Conduct, Resident in Good Standing, CEVA Governance, our current standing committee policy, the HOA MFN General Fiscal Policies and Procedures. This is a great document to review if you have a question on, how much can my neighborhood spend, or, what does the budget development process look like, or what is an operating fund? And then I'll also put up a high-level budget development process overview document. It'll pretty much just be the timeline of the process and what to expect. So that was the last slide. My apologies. So Annie, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you. So with what we thought for today, we've talked at the board level and at staff level at having kind of a biannual meeting with the MFNs and the committee members so that they can share experiences, share questions, find out who's doing what to recruit for volunteers, any subjects that would come up that other MFNs might gain information from. But we also have, I'm sure you may have some questions from today's presentation, which we're happy to answer those. Mr. Miller does have he has kind of volunteered to be our first our first person to kick us off in a discussion, and so he wanted to present to you a few items that he would like to ask questions about.
Okay, thank you, Annie. This is Mike. The main thing I wanted just to expand on a little bit is in some of Annie's earlier comments, she talked about the board's continuing interest in having lots of open and open communications, right? Back and forth between the board, all of our committees, and of course our homeowners and our neighborhood reps. So I just wanted to expand upon that a little bit. We've been talking quite a bit about what else can we do and what else should we do to try to be sure that we've got good communication going. And one of the questions that always comes up is how about doing some kind of a homeowner survey? It's a little surprising that in our over 20 years of existence, right, the Country Club Edgewater community has been here 20 some years now. There's actually never been a homeowner survey during that time. So, we've been thinking about it. We continue to think about it. And I want to kind of give you guys a heads up related to it, because we all know it's very difficult to try to put together a survey that is going to have a good response rate, right? Most surveys have a very nominal response rate. And we really would like to be sure that we've got a good open channel back and forth with our residents. So it is a continuing topic. There will be a little more discussion at our upcoming board meetings to try to finalize how should we do this. And inevitably, part of that solution will involve you, right? I think we'll probably try more than one method to be sure that we're trying to reach out as best as we all can to all of our homeowners, to listen to them, probably ask a few questions to try to stimulate some discussion. And as we do that, we'd very much like to have the neighborhood committees as active participants, right? Help us to be sure that we're doing the right outreach, help us to share the message, communicate, encourage people to participate in the surveys. You may also be able to help us actually collect some of the feedback through some of your neighborhood meetings. So it's just a heads up on that concept as we very much want to continue to reaching out to people. I think the neighborhood committees can be a very good vehicle to help us to do it better than we've been doing it in the past. So that's the main point I wanted to make.
Great. Now, I don't have anybody with their hand raised, but if there's anybody that would like to join in, have any questions directly related to it. Mr. Peters did point out that it's important to know that all of our standing committees are open to all residents and homeowners, so you can attend the meetings for sure. And of course, the board meetings as well. We would appreciate members coming to the meeting. Okay, I have Ms. Cooper. I think you should be able to unmute.
Okay, this is actually Joe Novak.
Oh, sorry about that. I can rename you so you.
Well, but Carol's also on here too, so we're kind of sharing her blogging because I was having some issues earlier. But I guess at a very high level, I'm kind of wondering about how we spend money. So we have, within our community, I would say two kinds of expenses: the ongoing contractual stuff, and then we've got what I'll call sort of repairs and maintenance. And for example, we have a couple of the lights at our pool that are out currently, so that would be kind of a repair and maintenance item. What is the process for that? Do we is there an approval process, or is it, as long as there's a budget around it, do we just do it and submit it? And do we have to use an approved contractor for that? If, for example, do I have to go find an electrician and get them approved for that project, or can we just, hire one that's, licensed and for maintenance? So I have a lot of questions around that area.
Sure.
So Joe, this is Robin, and I'm gonna handle your approved contractor part first. Yes, the contractor that, or any vendor that performs work on any CEVA property must be an approved vendor here at Town Hall. We want to make sure that they have the appropriate insurance in case anything happens on the property, et cetera. So as a neighborhood committee member within the homeowners portal, you have access to a report, which is a current list of vendors. I can also provide this for you. If you know of a vendor that you really want to use that's not on the list, then we can have further conversations about how to get that vendor to be an approved vendor in Lakewood Ranch. And then moving towards your the process of making those kinds of repairs. So most neighborhoods have repair and maintenance budgets built into their annual operating budgets, especially at the pool area. So I don't have what your neighborhood's annual budget for those kinds of contingencies are at my fingertips, but generally there are funds available for those types of repairs that need to be made. If you're talking about major repairs, it's always best to contact me so that I can look at where the neighborhood is at, year to date, what kind of funds are left, what kind of impact is this going to have on members' equity? Does it need to come from your operating or reserve fund? So it's really always best to, when these types of things come up, is to contact staff at Town Hall. I can help you on the financial side when you're talking about things that, if you, for example, you guys are talking about replacing all of your yard lamps. So that's something that Christy needs to be involved in, because she's going to have insight on, what would be approved even, so I'm the finance piece, and then Christy is kind of the compliance the compliance piece. So for your lights at the pool specifically, so that's something that you need an electrician for, is it?
Well, it's probably, so we do have a contract with for sort of the standard maintenance with pools by Low, and I would envision that that we would have them come in, and hopefully we're talking a relatively small expense to either replace bulbs or something there.
So replacing bulbs is probably something that the neighborhood can just do. But if you're unsure at any time, just reach out to me.
Okay. Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
Now, Robin, just to interject, I think one of the last board meetings, the board was actually looking at reviewing the kind of that threshold of where neighborhoods could just go ahead and do work versus need to get a little more formal action to it. So that might be something the board ends up talking about a little bit in the future. Do I have that right?
Yes, and kind of our guiding document, our HOA MFN fiscal policies and procedure document, there is a rule of the neighborhood can't spend over $1,500 in unbudgeted expenses with any 3-month period, and that's grouped by kind of area costs. So when you look at the financial statements, you'll see that it's grouped by pool costs and lot costs and common area costs. And so we try not to be too restrictive in that policy by making that threshold, a single line item. We try to make it as an area, because you may have savings in one line item in that area that will allow you to go over in another line item in the same area. So that document is also available on the portal, and I can send that to you as well.
Yeah, Robin, this is Mike. I just wanted to emphasize that point that everyone should be aware that over the past year, roughly, Robin and team have done a very nice rewrite and update to a financial procedures and process document that, you know, does a very nice job of kind of laying out further detail on how the budgeting process works, how the payments process works, how neighborhoods can best operate, you know, relative to, you know, when they need to spend some money or when they're trying to decide what to do and how to manage it. So it's a great initial reference document. And if you've got additional questions, as Robin said, you know, they're always there to help you walk through some specifics. But the document is a very, very helpful starting point.
Okay, I think I'll move on. Ms. Cooper, I believe it is Ms. Cooper.
It is
also.
the real Miss Cooper. Hi, thank you. Just to follow up on the direction that you're giving the committees on finance related issues, we have finance people, neighborhood representatives. I think that so you don't have chaos within a community, all requests to spend money, even if it's budgeted, need to filter through the finance person in the neighborhood, who can then go to Robin if she needs further clarification. I think that if you have each individual group going directly and spending within their budget, it can get out of control.
Well, we would hope that everyone in the neighborhood community is communicating with each other on whatever, you know,
I'm just stating
whatever the hot topic is.
Right. Well, you know, you're putting out that if it's within a budgeted item, so if there is a budgeted item, that they can go ahead and spend that. I think you have to make sure that it's going back through the finance committee representative, because you don't know what else may not have been reported yet that has already been spent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just talking about, you know, there have to be controls within that. So I would recommend that for anybody within a neighborhood committee, that they go through their finance representative in the committee before spending anything, even if it is a budgeted item. I had a question also, just to go back to the MFNs and the voting. There were two different numbers that were represented for a vote to be valid. One was to change a service, 66 2/3%. And the other was a simple majority with 60% voting in favor. Can you just go over that again and be a little bit more specific? Because we are specifically looking at, and Christy, you're aware, we're going to be doing a neighborhood vote on changing the light poles. So is that falling under the 66 2/3, or is that under the simple majority and then 60% in favor?
I'll absolutely go over that for you, Carol. There's a difference between what is in the neighborhood supplements, which is filed with the county, and those are things such as in your neighborhood for roof replacement. It may include landscape irrigation, specific contractual amenities that are allowed to the residents who live there. And those are the votes that are held within the 66 2/3 vote. There were several, there was a neighborhood that it specifically stated in the neighborhood supplementals about their roof cleaning and that, and they had to have that type of membership vote for the neighborhood. The neighborhood votes that require the simple majority of the 51% and no less than the 60% are items that are may not specifically be noted in the neighborhood supplements, such as the basketball hoops. Well, you can't have those in MFNs, but say some neighborhoods have specific address treatments, and they may want to change those. When we get to that point with the vote that you want to do, I'll review what's in the neighborhood supplementals and what it is that you want to do, if you're going to keep the same color, the same whatever it's going to be. We'll review it at that time and see what kind of vote that is.
Okay, so it may go either way depending on what we choose.
Yeah, until I see what
Okay.
it is that you're proposing, then we'll go from there.
Okay,
Once
fair.
this-
The last question I had was the lakewoodranchgov.org website. Who updates that? Because it doesn't seem to get updated. I didn't know, I thought it was being superseded by the client connect one. So I wasn't looking for it to be updated, but I guess if it's going to be out there running concurrently, it does need to have updates on there.
Yes, that comes under my office. We have a position open though that helps us with the website. So that has not been in the last couple of months been able to keep up with it. But if there's specific things, then you can just let me know specific items, and I'll work with you on that, or you can help me understand what you're looking at.
Yeah, for example, under the MFNs, under our individual neighborhoods, they have old committees. I mean, not even the most recent old ones, like 2-year-old committees. So if somebody's looking for contact information, they're not going to find it there. I just was wondering how we get it updated, but it's not, I'm sure you'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, and we'll with our new template that we'll be asking you to fill out too. Of course, we'll be revamping it in that way as well.
Great. Thank you guys very much.
Mm-hmm. And then we also have Mr. Croft. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I live over in Edgewater Cove. A couple of things. For about the last year and a half, I've been handling the communications out to the neighborhood. So and I've just recently officially joined the committee. But so anything that pertained to the neighborhood, the email would come over to me. I'd maybe doctor it up or not doctor it up or send information out to the entire neighborhood. So I've been sort of become the contact for the neighborhood, and we've had about, I don't know, half of this neighborhood's turnover in the last probably 2 years. So I'm sort of the name they see all the time. So I get a lot of questions about very, mundane, common, well, I don't want to call it mundane, but primarily irrigation stuff. Somebody's irrigation thing blows off in the middle of the weekend or whatever. They don't know what to do. Is this the VMS client? Do I understand this correctly? Is there going to be something available, how to or what to do type thing for residents to access on that portal, that website, for that kind of information? Or is that still, is that sort of like a very nebulous sort of thing?
So there is some information similar to that available on the portal. For example, we have like the irrigation schedules for each district on the portal.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of depends what the specific question is, because this portal is strictly for the homeowners association, and we try not to intermingle district related items within it. And
okay, well, yeah, all right. Well, I actually asked this question. I believe Christy might have answered it about maybe right before Christmas, and I think it got buried with everything. I buried it myself. I didn't follow up, but I think there's a need for that sort of thing for the residents to be able to access information like that. There's other things that come up too periodically. What I generally do is I funnel them over to Rich Cottle, who then has to deal with it. Instead, for instance, with the irrigation thing, and I don't know all the rules of, how, who to contact and all that sort of stuff, but that kind of, we've had a few incidents over Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, where this stuff happens, or maybe it's not even during those holidays at any point. And it just seems to be a really difficult thing for the residents to access. They come to me or go to Rich or whomever. I just think there's a need for that kind of thing. And I don't know if you could somehow add that to the, maybe that would be neighborhood specific where it would require a password sign in?
I'm trying to figure out exactly, because with the Cove, your maintenance-free neighborhood takes care of the irrigation within the properties.
Right.
Now, if you need help with like turning off the valve per se,
Mhm.
that would be a call to the operations department. We have 24, like even over the weekends.
Right.
We have a answering service at town hall, so you call town hall and it'll go to the after hours message, and in the after hours message it's dial 3, and then it contacts the person with our answering service. That person lets the on-call operations person know that the irrigation at such and such the Cove needs to be turned off, or they need assistance turning it off. And that goes the same for the MFNs, where it's an individual property owner. So we do, respond out during the weekend or during the Fridays, and help turn off the irrigation. So
Okay.
it's kind of two different things. I'm not sure which
Well,
one
okay,
you're
but
asking.
my question, excuse me, my question is, how does a homeowner know, how does a homeowner know what you just described? Where do they go to access that information?
Well, we put it in a number of different places. I know too, just in the phone call itself, but I can't list off where all we
Well, I don't need
have it.
specifics.
If there's some place that you feel would be very helpful to have it, we can, whether it's on the portal somewhere, we can put it on there.
I believe it's already on the portal under the links. There's a tab for links to various sites within the community, and that is one of the links within the public portal. There's also the same link, request for service link on our public website.
Okay.
As for how would homeowners know where to go to find that, I guess we try to educate the committee members, and we hope that information is then communicated down to the residents.
Okay, well, what I can do is I can go in and, read through that and maybe come up with something to get out to the residents, because it's been totally unclear, I'd say, actually, what to do when this happens. It's just we handle it on a case-by-case situation, and it happens about every 2 weeks right now with the irrigation thing. So
Right, and if I can interject, Lou, this is Christy. I don't remember exactly, and I apologize, how your neighborhood handles with your vendor, but this is another also too of communication. If there are irrigation issues within the property, of who they should contact with your vendor. Some vendors have portals, some have email addresses and a contact person that they can contact. Some go directly to the neighborhood chairperson or the landscape chairperson. They handle it from their end. So that would be a communication from that end with the vendor and your residents to work out as to the best way and most efficient way to handle it within your neighborhood. And if you need help addressing that, I'm more than happy to help with that.
yeah, okay, all right, okay. Well, that's good enough.
And
That's
if
good
you're
for me.
No, and if you're, you've got some very specific items for your neighborhood too, we'd be more than happy to sit down with you and we can help you go through a couple of items like that you're getting multiple questions over time about. Since you do have a lot of newer neighbors, then maybe we can come up with a different plan as far as getting information out as well.
Yeah, well, I know the irrigation thing is something that Rich has got at the top of his list to deal with, because it's 21 years old or whatever it is now. And so, but as a result, we have a lot of these incidents. I'd say on average, probably every other week, somebody's thing's blowing off in the yard somewhere. And, we gotta.
Yeah. And the town hall number would really only be to help you turn it off. It wouldn't necessarily be the work on the property. That would be kind of what Christy was talking with the vendor that you work with.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh. And now we also have Ms. Runcie.
Hi, thanks. I have two questions about the portal. One is there only one account per household? Because my husband was able to get through and I can't connect on my laptop.
That's a great question. So you can either log in as using your town hall account number and the password of the primary contact on the account, or you can log in with your email address entered in all lowercase and the password attached to that record. So for committee members, if you're looking to view, to have those additional permissions and view those committee related documents, then you're going to want to log in using your email address and the password that you set specific for that contact.
Okay.
So you're saying that you can't log in, but your husband can?
Right, right. He's been able to get in, and then when I tried, I just couldn't reach it at all. No.
Are you trying to use your email address?
Yes.
Okay, I will email you after this and we will get you in through your contact.
Okay, great. My other question is, because this portal sounds like it has a lot of information, are you going to have some type of orientation for maybe committee members that we can learn it, get details?
So I actually created some homeowner portal how-to videos.
Okay.
Now, they aren't really specific to committee members, so that is something that we could add. They're actually more for residents. There's kind of like a general overview, and there is a little touch on permissions that committee members have in that video. But I could put something together to show committee members where they could go for like reports that they have access to, or their neighborhood's financial statements.
Anything I think would be helpful. Yeah. Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Anybody else have anything you want to share? Thoughts you had, questions you have maybe on something that we presented? We did have about 30 attendees, aside from those of us that are panelists, so we appreciate everybody joining us today. It's been hopefully helpful to each of you. And of course, we do have, let me see if I can get that back on there. Like we said, we'll be sending out some follow-ups to the presentation to all the committee members, and then also this presentation. And we've recorded it so we could add it to our YouTube page in case there's somebody that wasn't able to attend and you think it would be helpful if they listen to the presentation. So on behalf of myself, Christy, and Robin, and the CEVA board, thank you very much for attending. If you have any questions or comments, please just follow up with us, and we'll follow up with some emails with extra information for you. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for coming.